My name is Kelsey Lee, and I have 25 journal ideas for you, all with examples from my previous journals. We are going to be looking at spreads that will help you set goals and intentions and just go into the new year strong, as well as some journal spreads that will help you close out the current year in a meaningful way. So let's open our journals and dive into the first idea. The first journal idea is pretty basic. I promise they get more creative as we go on, but I wanted to start with something that anybody can do, and that is going to be a cover page or introduction to the year. And that is really great for beginners to help you get over the fear of the blank page and just the pressure of starting in your notebook. You can also get creative with the medium that you use, as well as adding quotes to add a little bit more motivation to the page. My next idea is to write a new year letter. Now, this can be a letter to your future self to read at the end of the year. It could be a love letter to your body, like this example I have here. It could be a letter to the new year itself, or it could even be a letter to God and basically a prayer. Regardless of who you choose to address the letter to, I highly recommend using an envelope and attaching that inside of your journal and putting the letter in there for a fun, interactive element. Of course, we can't talk about New Year journaling without talking about some goal setting spreads. I have so many examples for you when it comes to setting goals. Here is one from back in 2017. Breaking down your goals into categories can be a great way to structure your goal setting entries. Here is another example from 2019 when I had personal goals and then business related goals. And here is an example where I really let my creativity run wild and was focused on growth in 3 main areas. So when you flip open the tab, it shares the areas of mind, body, and soul with a goal beneath each of them. Now, if you want a goal spread that is going to prioritize function over the beauty of it, then this is the one for you. And I actually have a video all about this system if you want to check that out next. But as you can see, I write down all of my goals or intentions in one column. And then I really break down how I'm actually going to achieve these various goals by identifying what the ideal version of the goal is, the bare minimum, what the first step is, how much time will be required, what are the systems I need to put in place, are there any rules I need to identify? How can I make it easier and how can I make it more enjoyable? And what is unique about this entry is that it's one that you're actually meant to check in with every single quarter. So you can see I have a progress tracker over here on a scale of 1 to 10. This next spread idea is one that is really going to help you dive deep into a specific goal as well as track it on a monthly basis. Here you can see I have the goal of writing, and the idea here is similar to the last one in terms of identifying your ideal, your bare minimum, maybe setting up some guidelines and routines. But you can see this is a more creative spread because I'm also bringing in some illustrations and photos that are going to be inspiring me in achieving this goal. And I actually did this exact same process for 2 other goals, one related to training for our big hike to Mount Rainier, and then the other was actually working on a prayer routine. You may also consider adding in trackers for your goals that are going to help you keep track of your progress. In this case, for writing, this is a log of all of the times that I was engaging in a writing sprint. Here is another example with a health tracker. If that is one of your main goals, is just to have a healthier year. Similarly, you could create a very basic workout tracker with the length of your workout and the type of workout, like in these 2 examples. Personally, my favorite way to think about goal setting and intentions for the new year is through the lens of a telos. Now, if you've never heard that word before, essentially it means the ultimate end or aim. and how you basically are growing to become the person you want to be. What are you aiming for? As a Christian, I love this quote by Jeff Bethke that talks about becoming more like Jesus every day. But as you can see over here, I also apply this idea of becoming and growing closer to my ultimate end or aim to other areas of my life. So the idea here is that instead of having a goal that is focused on working out more, you can instead have a telos that is an ultimate end or aim of becoming a woman who stewards her body well. Similarly, instead of having a goal of writing a book, I want to become a writer dedicated to improving her craft. If you again want to apply a tracker to the idea of becoming, here is an example. I have an action plan of how I am going to become a healthier person, a person who has strong relationships, is better with my finances, and having a strong marriage. These are all examples of how you might want to become a better person. And you can create a grid like this one and track your progress on a quarterly basis. Another way people like to think about who they are becoming is by setting a word of the year. As you can see, in 2017, my word was embrace. So I created this little card with a definition. And then when you flip it up, I have all of the various things I want to be embracing, and then broke it down in terms of how I can apply this word into my personal life, my career, and my spiritual life. This is another example of a word of the year, or in this case, 4 words of the year, because you don't have to limit yourself just to one. So in this case, my words were present, process, prioritize, and prayer. We all love alliteration. And again, I really took my time identifying what these words mean and then created a list of how I was going to apply them to my year. So, as an example for the word present, I wrote that I was going to be present in the moment, observe and express gratitude, focus on what you can control now and give the future to God, and practice presence in your body, mind, and soul. Do not give in to escapism. This next spread idea is a focus on habits and better practices. In this example, I created a list of 10 habits that I wanted to implement into my life to make it better. Examples include going to bed earlier, planning out my week. I love this one. If it takes less than 5 minutes to do, just do it and stop putting it off. And of course, I highly recommend whatever those habits are you establish for yourself every month, create a habit tracker of some shape or form and keep track of your progress. Another great New Year spread idea is to think about your ideal day or routines and how you can set yourself up for success with your habits and goals. We talked about this a little bit already, but here is an example of a weekly layout, Monday through Friday during the work week, and how I would set up my day and basically time block to allow myself to do all of the things that I want to do. You can also think about this in terms of a specific goal or habit that you want to form and how you can set up the ideal environment in which to do it. In this case, I have a spread that is all about how I can get into the right mental space for writing. Here is another example, this time focused on a morning routine. And as you can see, the way that this one is set up is that we have different wake up times ranging from 5 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. And the idea is that the earlier you wake up, the more you can fit in, whereas the later I wake up, the less I am able to do. And so it provides good motivation to wake up earlier and fit in the ideal routine. And here is one more example. This is focused on making the time to insert your activity here. And I divided it into AM and PM for every day of the week. and basically creating a schedule for yourself of when you're going to do that thing. If you're enjoying these ideas so far, go ahead and hit subscribe. I have much more journaling ideas where that comes from. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm looking towards a new year, I find so much joy in thinking about all of the opportunity to discover new things. And with that in mind, I'm so excited to share that today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, and there is a wide range of topics that they cover. It includes illustration, graphic design, photography, music, marketing, productivity, and so much more. There are literally thousands of creative classes in countless categories. And whether you are a beginner in that skill or somebody who is more advanced and just looking to get to that next level, there is a class for you. And most of the classes have projects so that you can really learn by doing. As I personally look toward the new year, I definitely have that mentality of setting goals and just engaging in self-improvement. So I've been checking out a lot of the classes by Ali Abdaal, who is just the productivity king. And I love how the classes are organized on Skillshare so that they really are stackable and you can just keep learning. So if you are interested in trying Skillshare for yourself, the new year is the perfect time. And right now, Skillshare is offering the first 500 people to use my link in the description a free 1-month trial of Skillshare so that you can get started today. So thank you so much to Skillshare for your longtime support of My Abiding Journal and for everything that you do to help the creative community. And with that, let's jump into our next journal idea. A new favorite spread idea for me is a checklist for the new year. There is some overlap with more of a goals spread, but I would say a lot of these items are more so one and done things to check off and are often things that I have been meaning to do for a while and putting off. I put them on this list in the hopes of finally getting them done in the new year. And in this case, I did a 25 by 2025, and I think that's always a fun thing to do. So for a new year, you could say 26 by 2026, or however you want to do it. And I divided it into categories. So I had house projects, declutter and organization, self-care and creativity, travel experiences, and miscellaneous tasks. And I have found that this has worked really well for me. And having it in my monthly journal, I just check in with it every month and see what progress I've made. Of course, you can also just do a classic bucket list. Here is an example from December, and you can do this for the entire year. Or if you want, you can also break it down month by month. And if you're interested in monthly bucket lists, I promise I've gotten better at illustration since creating this one. But that is actually going to be how we are looking at our monthly stickers going into the new year. More on that soon, but you're going to have a lot of monthly bucket lists coming from me throughout this year. My next idea is to have some reflection questions going into the new year, really basic prompts to just get your ideas flowing. So here are some prompts that I used going into this last year, and all of the prompts that I am sharing are available as stickers on my Patreon. So for example, I had this year, I will. What am I going to be focusing on? I want to learn, I want to become, and I want to let go of as my 3 main prompts for reflection. And if you are interested in journaling prompts, then definitely check out my Patreon. I have so many prompts to get you creating and documenting and reflecting. This next idea is really simple. It's just to have a page dedicated to quotes for motivation or encouragement. And You can do that with just stickers that you find along the way. Another idea for motivation and encouragement is to have an envelope in your journal. You again could put quotes in here, or an even better idea, I think, is to collect notes from people over time. In this case, these were all notes that were collected at the same time, but you also could be writing literally notes to yourself of encouragement, or just have an envelope in your journal, and over time, as little notes from people come your way, reminding you that you are loved and cared for, you can put them in your journal. Of course, the New Year classic is to have some form of vision board. I don't particularly love that term, but I do like the idea of a mood board or an intentions board of what it is I intend to do going into that year. And my favorite way to think about this is as a prayer board. Here in my faith journal, I have all of my faith goals by category and basically just wrote about them with some fun stickers and prayed over these goals as I was going into the new year. If you want to learn more about it, I have a live stream here on my channel and also have a printable set available on Patreon. My final idea for starting the new year is my personal favorite because it is a practice that you then can continue into the entire new year, and I think will make you so glad you started it by the end, and that is to create month in review entries. Set aside 12 pages now in your journal, or start a month in review journal as a separate notebook. I have entire videos about this practice if you want to learn more, but the idea here is that you would have a page per month for the entire year. And if you set them up now, it prepares you well to start thinking about your memories in a different way. As you can see, this practice is very near and dear to my heart, and out of all of the spreads I make in a year, these are the ones that are most important to me. And I want to encourage you and invite you to try this practice in the new year by joining the monthly journaling club. It is completely free. I have more information here on my channel through some other videos. I'll be talking more about what this will look like in the new year. It's a wonderful way to stay on top of this practice and document your memories. Now that we have talked about all the ways that you can set yourself up for the new year using your journal, I want to talk about how you can start using your journal right now to reflect on this last year. And I'm going to again reference the month in review page and encourage you that you don't have to wait until the new year, but you actually can start this practice right now, looking back on the last month. In this case, I have a lot of photos and stickers, but if that feels like a bit much for you, then you can do it in an even simpler format. Here you can see that you can do a month in review by just writing down the memories that you made, the lessons you learned, your achievements, and maybe books read or things that you want to improve. If you haven't already started a monthly journaling practice but want to be able to capture all of the highlights from this last year, you might consider just doing a year in review and literally do a timeline January through December and try to think of the main highlights from each month. Even if it's just one or two things, it can create a really neat timeline of the entire year. Here is another example of what looking back on the entire year can look like. In 2020, I did just a remember when list and just wrote down again all of the highlights using some stickers. Definitely an eventful year. And here is another example from 2016 where I did all of my biggest memories in an illustration format, and I really love how this turned out. So if you're looking back on the year and want to capture all of the highlights, this is a great way to do it. Now for perhaps the spread that has the longest tradition in my journal. I have been creating a books in review spread for every year for I don't even know how many years now. Here is what it looked like for 2023. I usually track my total print versus audio favorite genres. I like to typically identify a top 10 or 5, and throughout the last few years, I have been printing out the covers of the photos to represent the books that I read. Way back when, in 2017, I created this fun little book list. Here is another example in which I identified the top 5 and then again printed out the photo covers. This one was just meant to look like a full bookshelf across the page. Here are the 2020 books. In 2021, we did a top 5 and also included some of the graphs from the Storygraph app. In 2022, I did a list format and highlighted the ones that were 5-star reviews, and then again had my graphs from Storygraph. And then any book that was 4.75 stars or less went on this page. And then all of my 5-star books actually got these dedicated pages by genre. So I had my 5-star historical fictions, my 5-star memoirs, nonfiction, and poetry, and the classics. And I really loved doing more of these reading journal style spreads. And yes, you also can just keep a very simple list as well. You don't have to get quite so creative. While reading is one of my favorite hobbies, I definitely have other interests as well. And so you might want to also consider doing some hobby recaps for other activities that you enjoy. If you are an avid movie lover, for example, you might want to create a recap of all of the movies you went to see in theaters. And for the travel lovers among us, perhaps you want to create a list of all of the places you traveled to in this year. And speaking of the travel lovers among us, if you went somewhere special or experienced a really relaxing or fun vacation, those typically tend to be where we have some of our best memories. And I want to encourage you to document them before the year is over. You can create a single spread for one entire travel experience or vacation, just writing down the highlights of that experience with some of your favorite photos, and then doing a recap. You might also consider creating a gratitude spread, writing down some of the things you are most grateful for from this last year. And bonus points again if you want to get a little bit more creative with some illustrations and hand lettering. I know that sometimes when we look back on the year, it's not all happy things. And so if you're looking back on this year and experienced a significant loss, I want to encourage you to take some time to acknowledge that loss in your journal and actually create a memorial page for that person. At the end of the year, I always think it's a great idea to also take some time for some deeper reflection. And this last year, I actually created some journal prompt stickers to help my patrons do exactly that, and of course, used them myself. So, some of the ways that I reflected on the year were by identifying a word to describe the year. You might also consider reflecting on your 3 favorite memories, what stood out to you the most from this year, as well as some lessons learned from the last year, a challenge you overcame, and something you are proud of. And finally, you are going to want to wrap up the year with an official goodbye. Some years I keep it simple and just like to write goodbye to the year and hello to the current one. But for other years, I like to think about a quote that sums up the year well, or I might even take a moment to write a brief letter to myself and to the past year, thanking it for all that it offered. And that is a wrap on all of the journaling ideas I wanted to share with you today. Go ahead and leave a comment letting me know which idea was your favorite. And if you have some ideas that weren't covered in this video, we would love to hear them as well. All of the ideas I shared with you today are from my previous journals, but I have so many more ideas that I plan to apply to my New Year journal. So if you want to see what those ideas are, Make sure that you are subscribed. Go ahead and check out my Patreon so you will always get notified when new videos come out. And if you want some more inspiration right now, check out one of these videos next.